What's up guys, my name is Hutch, and I make videos and put them on the internet. So it's been quite a while since I posted anything on this channel, and it's been about 4 months since I left my job in LA and moved back to my hometown in Northern California. My abrupt departure came as a surprise to a lot of people, and even more surprising to some was that I never addressed it here on this channel, which is what I would like to do today. I'll address that right off the bat and say that I felt like my goodbye on Respawn was sufficient, and I didn't want to make it overkill by double posting on here. And to be honest, at the time, I was really ready to just be done with the whole thing. So there's that. I would like to address that today here in this video for you guys, which is why I'm doing this whole thing. So why did I tuck my tail and vamonos out of the internet land for a minute there? Well, I think that's a complicated question with a complicated answer, but for the sake of being concise, which is something that I'm not very good at doing, I'm going to try and keep this short, seeing as this is not a 30-minute short film. This is YouTube, so here we go. Getting right into it, my shorter answer is that I was really unhappy. And when I say unhappy, I don't mean the normal melancholy that everybody feels from time to time in their life. I mean the sort of unhappy that only comes every once in a while, that affects you so profoundly that it can only be taken as a sign from your subconscious that you need to change something. Now, my first year in LA was very special to me. It would be impossible to put into words just how happy I was, how blessed I felt to be in that position, how optimistic I was about my life in general, and how privileged and honored I felt to be working next to someone as naturally charismatic and intelligent and generous and kind as Mr. Sark. That guy was, and I think always will be, kind of a big brother to me, and I am forever in his debt for the wisdom that he imparted on me in the short time that I spent down in LA. But something just changed for me. During my second year in the games industry and in LA, I began to feel a nagging feeling that something just wasn't right. And this feeling slowly but surely persisted until I could no longer avoid asking myself if I was doing what I wanted to be doing with my life. And I feel like that's a question that we all need to ask ourselves from time to time to really make that honest evaluation. And needless to say that I didn't want to acknowledge that there was even a problem. And I tried by every means at my disposal to distract myself as much as I could to avoid it altogether. And it worked for a little while. But then around Thanksgiving last year is when it all came to a head for me. My personal relationships were suffering, and there was some infighting that disrupted my family during the holidays. And that was the last straw for me. After that, I felt like I had no foundation. And as Ra's al Ghul would say, I felt completely lost. I couldn't sleep, I lost my appetite, I no longer felt comfortable in my own skin. People that I loved no longer provided comfort for me, and I just sort of felt like a stranger to them and myself. And it was a pretty devastating, awful place to be at in my life, and it did not stop. I took a break in February to see if some separation from it all would help, an entire month to myself to do whatever I wanted, and that didn't help either. At this point, one could reasonably categorize what I was experiencing as depression. Now, let's make a distinction between rut and depression. A rut is something that we all go through from time to time, and it doesn't really need to interfere with our day-to-day. A depression is something much, much more impactful. I routinely was unable to fall asleep until 3 or 4 a.m., and I was waking up completely alert at 7 a.m. So my sleep cycle and pattern was just completely destroyed. My body was just constantly pumping out adrenaline and cortisol because I was just in a constant state of stress. And anyone who's experienced this knows what I'm talking about. And if you've never experienced it, I hope that you never do. At this point, I knew that a decision had to be made and that I could no longer dodge it. And so someone really close to me at the time pulled me aside and just asked me very bluntly what was up. And I hadn't really talked about it with anybody because it was just something that couldn't really be resolved by getting advice from a friend. And it just made me uncomfortable to even talk about it with anybody. But I reluctantly agreed, and I went outside with him and I talked to him and I just told him everything that was on my mind. I really spilled my guts, and I hadn't done that with anyone yet. And his advice was sound. He just said, you always have options. You can always make a decision to change your life around and do something else, and you don't have to feel like this. And we talked for like 30 minutes, and I took that to heart. And 5 minutes later, I walked in and emailed my bosses and asked for a meeting. And then 30 minutes later, I was giving my notice. And 2 weeks later, I was in a car heading to my hometown again. So I came back home and I started forcing myself to hang out with friends I've known for years. I was social, I talked about how I was feeling, and my homies showed up in spades to show their support. I started spending a lot of time with a girl who I'd known for years, and that was really special to me too. But the first couple months were rough, to put it in simple terms. It was just incredibly difficult to transition from that life to something that was not that life. It's just it's really impossible to describe that transition unless you've actually been in that spot. But I knew that was coming, and I just kind of braced myself. So I white knuckled it for like the first couple months. I knew that it was going to be rough, and I just kind of dealt with it, and that was that. But after doing everything that I was being suggested to do, after a couple months, I just started to feel better. Like month 3, I no longer felt completely stressed all the time, and I was able to relax and actually laugh and enjoy my time with my friends, and I just didn't feel depressed anymore. For me, coming out of a depression is not, it's not a very abrupt thing. It's a very subtle thing. There's no burning bush experiences that I was gonna feel that were just gonna immediately provide me relief. I knew that it was gonna take time, and that's what happens. True sadness just takes time and willingness to do the footwork to get out of. And I did the footwork, and I'm really, really glad I did. Which brings us to now. When I started feeling better, I started having urges to be creative again. And at first I dismissed these because when I thought that I was gone, I really thought that I was gone. Like I didn't want to make videos anymore. I didn't even want to look at Twitter anymore. But I didn't necessarily want to delete those properties because I like to think that I'm open to all possibilities. And so I knew in the back of my mind that it would be a possibility that one day that I would want to do those things again. So look, I almost got close to closing my YouTube account, but thank God I didn't, because here I am. Ultimately, I decided that making videos from home, from an environment that I enjoy infinitely more than LA, was something that appealed to me, and I hope it's appealing to you guys too. So I gathered some equipment, I set up all my gizmos, and I started streaming to start it off. And I stream just about every day these days, and the link's in the description for you guys if you're into that sort of thing. But once I figured out that I could have fun with that, just with streaming and just kind of, because that's like low stress, you're just kind of hanging out and playing video games and interacting with the people that follow your channel. But once I figured out that I could have fun with that, I knew that I was like, okay, well, now I think I'm open to making videos again. And that's where we're at now. I want to say to you guys that when Goodbye Hutch was trending on Twitter worldwide for 2 days, that affected me very profoundly. I was so grateful to have that support from you guys, and none of you really knew what was going on to me or with me, and I knew that, and what you guys were saying at the time were things that I really needed to hear in that moment, and it brought up a lot of feelings. I felt really sad that I was leaving it all. I felt regret that it couldn't work out down there, and I felt humbled. I felt grateful, and so thank you for that. That was amazing. That was really amazing. And that's that, guys. I'm active again, and I'm happy to feel creative again. And I hope you guys are happy about it too. I have no idea if that was concise enough, but you know, fuck it. I already said that I was bad at being concise. So with that, I'm gonna end this video. Thanks for watching, and stay tuned.